Hey y'all, and welcome back to Old Iron Talk. I'm your host, Callie Gurton, and today we are going to be talking with Kurt Aumann and Mike Mclean. But before we get started with them, I'd like to introduce you guys to your new producer, Michaela Nichols. Welcome, Michaela.
Hi, thank you.
Thanks for joining us. We're happy to have you as our new producer.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoy it somewhat. Listen to us talk about tractors,
That's so fun. I learn a lot.
So much fun. Michaela, you've been working for Aumanns for what, about 2 years now?
Mm-hmm.
And when you came into this job, did you have any background with tractors or no?
I had none. I had never been near one.
But you've started to love them, right?
I do. It is really fun.
What did you take your daughter to do a couple weekends ago?
So the town I grew up in and where we live now had a tractor show, and it was just a free Saturday, and so we drove by, and when Lydia saw those tractors, she was so excited because of the experience she's had here at open houses and stuff. And so we stopped, and she got to look at all the tractors, and they were having a pedal tractor pull, and she was very, very excited about that, even though she had no idea what that was. So we kind of explained to her. She got up on there and went for it, and she did really good for a girl in her age.
Good. That's exciting. I'm glad she loves our tractor world.
Me too.
That's exciting. All right, now let's get to talking with Mike and Kurt. We're here with Kurt Aumann and Mike Mclean. We've got two special guests on this episode, so that's exciting. Now, Mike, can you give us and everybody a little background on yourself? Where are you from? What do you do? What are you known for?
Myself, I'm from eastern North Dakota, about 30 miles west of Fargo. I currently reside on the family farm that was started back in the late 80s. The house that I'm in was built in 1908, currently doing a renovation on that. In real life, I'm a pilot for Delta Airlines. I fly 737s, and that's what I do. But as you see, this is kind of who I am. Was raised on the farm, started tinkering with old engines way back when. And several years ago, one of my most proud possessions is the 1913 Reeves 40 that was on the farm since new. It was delivered in the fall of 1913. And it never left the farm. Fortunately, it never got sold for scrap during World War II or any of that. I also have the original plow to that engine as well.
And on Facebook, you're Mike at Reeves Restoration, right? I mean, this is a antique tractor influencer. This is like a Kardashian, only antique tractors.
I am, and in fact, just today, I passed 19,000 followers. Can you believe that?
Yeah, who would have thought?
So we're getting some traction with this old iron thing, and it's interesting to see from far and wide. I'm getting Middle Eastern states, of course, most of Europe, all over the United States and Canada, but it's really interesting to see where the enthusiasm comes from. And
I have a love-hate relationship with social media, but it absolutely has brought more people into the hobby.
Most definitely. They're getting exposed to things. They find somebody's website or my Facebook page. They may see one post that interests them, and then they see something that they had no idea was even out there. Horse-drawn equipment. I'm a gas guy. I haven't gone to the dark side and gotten a steam engine yet, but
you'll get there.
I'm fascinated with that stuff as well. And a lot of my friends have fairly extensive collections of steam engines also. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and it's kind of exciting to see, how far and wide my inane posts are reaching. Some of them are not related really to tractors, but you have to have something for some comic relief every once in a while.
I'm a gas tractor guy too, and I always approach the steam engines like I approach boats. I always encourage my brother to buy a new boat all the time, and then I can go ride on it. Same way with steam engines. Yeah,
exactly. I get to go through steam school to get my certification, because that would probably be the last straw, and then I'd have to commit. But
So hey, behind you, you've got a big Altman Taylor. What are you working on there?
Well, we had some issues. I had it at Roll-Log a couple years ago. We found out that the original flywheel, the main flywheel, had a crack in one of the spokes. So with the tractor, I got a replacement flywheel. This tractor came out of Montana. Clarence Young owned it. In fact, my E. Rumley was also Clarence's. I got both of those from that family a couple of years ago.
That's a good pedigree to have.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Montana, they did a lot of. I'm not sure if this was used for road work. It has what's called the intermediate gearing. For those not familiar with Altman Taylors, they had three different speeds of gears that you could order for the tractor. Low speed, of course, for plowing and pulling work. This had the intermediate gearing for general purpose. This would probably pull in heavy soil 8 bottoms. With the low speed gearing, it would pull 10 fairly easily. But this had the intermediate gearings. I took the flywheel off to change it, and then we find out that the pinion gear is pretty much wore. You could almost shave with it. It's quite thin. And then the driven gear, which we have a picture of. This is right here. You see that guy?
Oh yeah.
That's quite wore as well. So we're going to do what we do and change those out, put some fresh gear on there, or put some fresh gearing on there. But
they were such a good tractor. I mean, you talk to the old timers and they all say there's more Altman Taylors left for a reason, because they were just such a good tractor, and they run so nice.
Exactly. Yeah, this thing purrs. I had some carburetor work done on it. One of the really good carb guys worked on that for me. I have yet to run it with the new carb, but I'm sure that will help. That will help a lot, and it's going to be a reliable tractor in the future with some new gears and fresh outlook on life, as it were.
Well, so you kind of had to do a little maintenance on the old Altman Taylor, but the Reeves, now that was a restoration, right?
Let's wander over there. I've got on my Facebook page, I've got some pictures and a few videos. The building that we're at right now, this is a Morton steel building. This was erected in 1979 by my great uncle. And it was erected contingent on placing the Reeves, which at the time was used. It had been pulled over to basically be a weight, as it were, to make sure some grain bins didn't blow away. So it had been. In fact, here she is.
Oh yeah, there she is.
Yeah, really, just amazed that this tractor stayed on the farm here. Wasn't sold during the scrap drives of World War II. But my father, who was born in 1931, had never seen this tractor run. We figure it was retired in 1928. And then, of course, excuse me, the tractor was retired in 1928, the Reeves, and it was like everything else on the farm. It was just pushed out in the back 40, and it sat there. Probably 10, 11 years ago, I decided that I wanted my father to see it run before he passed. So I started the restoration on that, and it was interesting trying to reach out to people that had Reeves 40s, because there's only a handful of owners of Reeves 40s. At the time, this was the 9th tractor to come out, as it were. I contacted Jerry Taves down in Gosler, Kansas, and it took some convincing with him. He didn't really, I don't think he believed me that I had a Reeves 40, because he had not heard of it.
Well,
but Jerry
when there's a loose Reeves 40 running around, it's kind of like Bigfoot. People talk about it, but nobody's ever actually seen it.
Exactly. You can't just you can't just produce one of these things and people don't get a little suspicious. Well, where did it come from? You know, what's its history and such like that. But with the help of Jerry and a number of other individuals, we got this thing running about 6 years ago, and then we took it under roll log. Still had some tweaking to do on it, but she was running and driving, and my father got to see it, which was amazing. He passed 3 years ago, but anyway, it's really a joy to have this tractor. And as of right now, well, this is the one in Montana is still owned by the original family, and this one is owned by the original family. And I believe those are the only two Reeves that are still owned by the original purchasing families. So
that's incredible. Okay, so I know you went to Roll Log this past week, correct?
I did, yes.
Did you take anything up there, or did you just go to the show?
Well, I took one of my newest purchases up there. I saw this on Facebook, as we do. You know, we get on, we just start searching, and you see something that interests you. I found this little guy, a video of him, and commented on it. And the individual that owned it said, "Hey, you just made a comment about my little tractor. Are you interested in it?" And I said, "Yes." And this is what we're talking about.
Oh, boy.
Actually, before he showed it, I did want to interrupt him, but I was going to say, Mike, are you sure you want to do this? It's almost the equivalent of admitting that you've got a moped.
This is true.
Oh, the thing is, I look so goofy on this thing that it's just fun. It's just fun. I mean, this thing is probably, it's a Ransom's MG6. This one was built in 1954. 8-cylinder air-cooled engine. It has a magneto on there, so we don't have batteries and all that kind of stuff. And she's actually starting pretty reliably right now. The great thing about this tractor crawler is I got some of the implements that were original to it as well. The one bottom plow here. I've got a 3-foot reel mower. Trying to figure out how to hook that up. Some of the attachment bars and such like that, I'm going to have to probably have them manufactured, or just, buy some clevises or such like that to mount those on there. But it's a hoot. And I took it to Roll Log and had a number of people drive it, and everybody got off of it. They had a big smile on their face because it's fun.
I saw some videos online, and it was like a bunch of little kids at the state fair at the pony ride.
Exactly. Everybody's got this broad grin on their face. They're just driving this thing. They look so goofy, but who doesn't have fun doing some goofy stuff every once in a while?
Yep, they're having fun, so that's all that matters.
Yeah.
So before you started that Reeves Restoration project, I mean, how much experience did you have on working on antique tractors?
I had, antique tractors of this vintage, none. What I had done previous to this is my father he needed this Farmall Cub. So I got a Farmall Cub, and I was living in Texas at the time. Got the Farmall Cub, brought it back up here. It was not looking that great, so I sandblasted it, painted it, did all that kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, I had probably significantly more money into it than it was worth. So then I thought, okay, well, what would be, basically more, what time could I put into a tractor that would actually be worth something? And the Reeves was sitting there. I knew it was going to be something that I wanted to do, but it was daunting. I mean, had no idea really where to start. I had gone down to Foreman, North Dakota, and saw Rudy Rathert's. He has one down there.
Right.
That's since been restored, and just a beautiful, beautiful running tractor. Asked him for some guidance. We started some initial manufacturing some parts for it that we knew we were needed. But that, again, before I started my Reeves, I had only some small engine experience on a couple of hit and miss engines, but nothing nearly as significant as starting the complete restoration of a large prairie tractor.
Well, and the reason I asked that question is because, sitting off in the bleachers as a guy like me that really kind of had about the same mechanical background. Oliver 60 was the first tractor that I ever bought, and I had way too much money in it too. We've all got our Oliver 60s and our Farmall Cubs in our life,
Exactly.
And it was honestly inspiring for a bunch of folks, in my opinion, to watch that restoration project happen, because I mean, it's the way I can vacation in my shop. Now, I've got all the heart to be the greatest antique tractor mechanic in the world, but I don't have enough of the head. And so I'm much slower, and it takes me a long time, and I got to make a lot of calls, and I got to bring in a lot of help, but it is absolutely it's the most fun. I mean, it is the most fun.
Yeah. How satisfying can it be? I remember vividly the first time that we got it to start in the shop, and about 4 or 5 minutes later, my father wanders out. He was sitting in the house that's about 50 yards away, and he comes over and he has this large grin on his face, and he said, "Did I hear that?" And I said, and the smoke was still billowing out of the shop because it was smoking quite a bit when she first started. But that was so satisfying that it's hard to describe when something comes back to life that has been sitting waiting for that moment for over 70 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few other feelings like that. I mean, it's just awesome.
Exactly. And then, there's no way that I could have done it without the help of, of course, Larson Welding and Machine in Fargo. They did so much of the machine work on the engine. And then Pete Mont, he helped me put the engine together and made sure that everything was right and set. And it actually didn't take a lot once we started turning it over for it to start popping. So that was awesome. Yeah, you can't, it's hard to do this, but I don't have an assistant or anything like that. So a lot of this stuff, I attempt to do it myself. And then I have since figured out what my limits are. And I've finally gotten a pretty good cadre of friends that I can reach out to and said, "Hey, how do you deal with magnetos? How do you deal with this? How do you deal with this?" And that's the beauty of this community, is everyone's willing to share their knowledge, and if need be, to share parts off their running, driving tractors so that you can have them recreated to get your own back on the road.
Yeah,
that's awesome. What is one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome in your restoration journey?
Well, the challenges is finding the limits of my abilities versus what I perceive my abilities to be. This is humbling. It's humbling because, if you're raised on the farm, you find ways of making things happen. You find ways to innovate. You find ways to be field expedient. But these require a little bit more than that at times. And knowing when to say, I need to call in the experts, that's one thing. Also now, I mean, I'm pushing 60. I'll be 60 here in about 4 months. My body doesn't bounce back the way it did when I was younger. So if I'm working in the heater and carrying even these gears and such like that, they weigh, 100, 150 pounds. I can lift them, but my back tells me very quickly, it's like, Mike, you need to put it down. And,
actually, I've found if I hit the ground anymore, I don't bounce at all.
Just kind of a splat.
That's right. So what do the other pilots think when you're sitting around in the old Delta lounge going, "Oh my God, I smashed my thumb the other day on an Altman Taylor gear"?
Oh yeah, it's interesting because everybody, you have some of the guys have there's sports cars and stuff like that. I mean, I've got some of that stuff as well. My great uncle's 55 Chevy that when I was single digits, we used to be bouncing around. That was a field car. And we used to bounce out fields and stuff like that. And he was basically an arborist. He loved trees. So we had, the back seat was full of pine cones. If he found a plow lay that had fallen off and it was on he found it in the field, it just threw it in the trunk and stuff like that. But that's been restored. But yeah, the pilots that I think I'm the only pilot that many of them have ever seen that have, this type of a hobby. But most of them are fascinated with it because a lot of pilots are mechanically inclined, and there's a lot of mechanics involved with one of these things. So it's kind of fun.
That's awesome. Okay, so you said the Reeves is the tractor that was originally on your farm. What was it used for, and do you have photos of it being used originally on the farm?
I have some photos, and I'm mostly certain that there are a couple of photos of it in use. They had a 42-inch separator or a threshing machine that it used to run, which is actually that's quite large, I guess, as far as separators go. I have the original 10 bottom plow that came with it. The year following the Reeves's first showing at Rolog, I brought the plow over. We have yet to hook the plow behind the Reeves to pull it because I have to get the governor to work properly before that. So that was one of my things that I wanted to do this year, but I didn't get around to that.
We've got a governor in Illinois that doesn't work at all.
Oh yeah.
He's in.
Yeah.
He's in the state house. So
okay. But yeah, I've got new springs and such like that for the governor. Also, this one, towards the end of its life, it had been used pretty good as well. The carburetor had been taken off and relocated to the opposite side of the engine, using a makeshift, basically a plate to attach it to the intake manifold. And then the throttle mechanism, there wasn't anything there. So I've looked at a couple of the other tractors. The one in Boise, Jump, has a really nice example of a Reeves. And I've taken a lot of pictures of that. I'm trying to fashion something like that on my tractor so that I can make sure that it's, it's operating at the RPM it needs to, and all that. But yeah, it's as far as I know, the plow and the thresher are the two implements that came with the Reeves. The thresher was a wooden threshing machine, and it disintegrated. So there's nothing left, but the plow it's fantastic. And I talked to one of the old blacksmiths that lived about 3 miles away, and I asked him if he could redo the plowshares for me. And he says, "No, I can't. I won't redo the plowshares, but I'll show you how to." So he had to weld points on them and such like that. And he says, you need to make sure that they're angled the right way. And it was actually counterintuitive, but when we stuck it in the ground the first time, even though it was dry, worked perfectly. And my father was there to see that as well, which I was really happy that he could witness that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, I know you've got, I know the Reeves is probably the favorite, but you've got some other pretty nice tractors.
But I got a few.
Well, tell us about what you got.
Well, okay, we've got one of the. This was we believe was the forerunner of the Reeves. It's a 2236 McCormick Deering. This one is not the original one to the farm. I started doing some research and getting into that tractor. And the engine was pretty much gone. So I found this one online, and I asked my father if it would be okay if I just purchased this one instead of spending a lot of money to restore the original one. He said yes. So we got that. 3060 Hart Par. This one kind of came to me in a unique way. I got a phone call from one of the tractor collectors and said, "Hey, Mike, are you interested in a 3060 Hart Par?" And I said, "I don't know anything about it." But anyway, about a couple of weeks of negotiation later, and it showed up on the farm. This one, as I found out, was owned by Jerry Taves down in Goswell, Kansas as well.
Oh.
So that's interesting. Next, this is the E. Rumley that came along with the Altman Taylor out of Clarence Young's collection. Runs fantastic. And it was, let's see, was it last year was the Rumley at Rolog? Anyway, I took it to Rolog along with the Altman Taylor, and it performed wonderfully. Next to it is its little brother, the F. Rumley.
Oh, yeah.
This one came out of Canada. It was, if you remember the Fords up there.
I'll tell you what, I had talked to them about that tractor, and that is one fine unit.
Works, yeah, it is, and I'm really fortunate to have it. So, and then everybody's got an M. You need a belt tractor. The other tractor that I have, the other tractor that I have is the Big Four. That, and that's in my shop. It's unfortunately still disassembled. I was dumb enough to throw it out to Facebook community to ask them if I should paint it or if I should leave it in the colors that it was. And it had been painted kind of with house paint. So everybody said, well, you need to repaint it if it's, not in the original work clothes. So that is in a state of disrepair. I'm working to get it back and put together. But yeah. And then I also have a 10-ton Holt crawler that we're not sure if I'm not sure if it's military or civilian, but it's one of the early ones with exposed push rods, and the engine for that is sitting in my shop, which basically it just needs to be put back together, and it should run fairly easily. But yeah, being just me, it's hard to at one time.
I got you. Well, then working gets in the way.
Yeah. Well, I've got to finance this hobby, so yeah, that gets in the way every once in a while as well.
That'll happen. Okay, we're about out of time here, but I gotta ask you. So you guys, as far as you know, you have the Reeves. Do you know kind of what was the progression on the farm as far as tractors go? So you had the Reeves, then do you know what they got after that?
I think I misspoke earlier. After the Reeves, the 2236 McCormick Deering came.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that. Before the Reeves, it was my great uncle expressed that we had, I'm assuming, a Type A International Harvester with the friction drive both forward and rear. Mm-hmm. And as I recall, he was saying that, of course, when it rains, the friction drive basically becomes worthless. So he said that was the forerunner of the Reeves. After the Reeves, the 2236 and beyond that, I'm not exactly sure, but we were a John Deere farm for the part as far as tractors go. So,
well, cool. It's always awesome to hear the history, and that's incredible that you have tractors that are original to your farm. So it's really cool to see.
Very fortunate. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it was just recently. It was in the last year. Kelly and I were flying Delta for something, and we fly enough. We got upgraded, so we got to sit in the front of the bus, and I look in the pilot's cabin, and I'm looking at the back of the head of the pilot, and I'm like, had the same haircut as you, Mike, and I'm like, that's got to be Mike. That has got to be Mike. And I finally got a stewardess over there and completely embarrassed myself. She had no idea. So,
hey, if you ever question, stick your head up in the cockpit and just say, hey. That's kind of one of the misconceptions. People think that you can't it's no man's land. You can't go up there under penalty of law. But if anybody shows any interest, I always make sure, especially little kids, I bring them up there and I said, hey, you want to take a picture in the seat, make it look like you're flying, stuff like that, because you never know how something like that may influence a kid to choose.
It's the same way as taking a ride on a Reeves.
Definitely. Every chance I get, if somebody shows some interest in one of these old tractors, I show them how to operate them, because you never know. They might be the next big collector.
Yep.
So,
yeah. Well,
awesome.
Hey, keep up the good work on the social media side, because I love reading your page and just kind of following along in adventures, and every once in a while you'll see me comment and I'm like, I'm right behind you.
always good to see your comments, Kurt. Yeah. And Mike at Reeves Restoration is my Facebook page. So if anybody's interested in taking a peek at it, you're very welcome to do that.
All right, man.
Hey, thanks for doing this. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Y'all have a great day.
You
all right,
too.
you too, man.
Thank
Be
you.
good.
You can find all your source material for our episodes on our website, oldirongarage.com. We encourage everyone to join us on Old Iron Garage and connect with other collectors. Again, we would like to thank both Kurt and Mike for joining us today. We really enjoyed learning about Mike's restoration business and the stories behind his collection. We encourage everyone to go and check out his Facebook page and give him a follow at Mike at Reeves Restoration. Don't forget to submit your collection photos to info@oldirongarage.com to be featured at the end of our episodes. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or would like to join us on a future episode of Old Iron Talk. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.